Hi, everyone. Sorry, one second.
Hi, Brenda. We can hear and see you.
Okay, there was some echo here. So thank you so much. And thank you for your patience. We were just having a little bit of a glitch. So we are now ready to start the meeting. And just a reminder that the meeting is being recorded. And we would ask that you leave your cameras, your microphones off unless you're speaking, but please feel free to put your cameras on if you want to engage with other members of SEAC. So I invite you to start with our opening prayer. So if you can join me in the sign of our faith, in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. We come together in hope from different community groups, answering the same call to service, pieces of the same puzzle. We come together in gratitude for the trust placed in us, for the opportunity to serve, pieces of the same puzzle. We come together in respect, aware of our diversity, willing to work for the good, pieces of the same puzzle. We come together in awe of the wonder and beauty of each of God's children, pieces of the same puzzle. We come together in God's name, and as we work together toward the same goal, each piece of the puzzle begins to fit neatly into place, creating a breathtaking picture of love, compassion, courage, and grace. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. And we are now going to go to our land acknowledgement.
As we know it today
is rich in the history and modern traditions
of many First Nations and the Métis,
from the lands of the Anishinaabe
to the Attawandaron,
the Haudenosaunee,
and the Métis.
These lands surrounding the Great Lake
are steeped in Indigenous history.
As we gather today
on these treaty lands,
our Catholic social teachings
call us in solidarity
with our Indigenous brothers and sisters.
So honor and respect the four directions:
lands, waters, plants, animals, and ancestors
that walked before us.
All these wonderful elements of creation exist,
gifted to us by our Creator God. We acknowledge and thank
the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation
for being stewards of this traditional territory.
Okay, we're moving to item 1.2, the approval of the agenda. Did everyone have a chance to review the agenda? And if so, can I get a mover and a seconder?
I can move on second, Diane.
Okay. Diane moved. Can anyone else second?
I'll second.
Thanks.
Brenda, it's Maria.
Thanks, Tracy. Second by Tracy. Okay. Item number 2 is declarations of conflict of interest. Do we have any declarations of conflict of interest this evening? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 3.1. We have the first of our 2 presentations this evening. Our first presentation is Learning Disability Supports with DJ Cunningham. DJ's passion and expertise grows out of a deep personal understanding of both the positive and negative impacts of learning. DJ Cunningham's learning experiences have been impacted by his learning disability, and it was not until he knew how he learned that things began to change, having a positive and lifelong impact on his self-esteem. A major component of this change was from the utilization of technology. At Trent University, he discovered technologies that tapped into his preferred learning methods, and a door to independence and academic success opened. DJ has been a user of various technologies for the past 15 years and has worked with thousands of students, teachers, and administrators. DJ continues to be a strong supporter of technology and a strong advocate for cloud-based technologies as educational tools. In 2008, DJ co-founded and is the CEO of LearnStyle Limited, which is a technology company providing training for various school boards and builds education apps and software. DJ has conducted PD sessions on cloud technology and keynoted conferences on the benefits and advantages of using technology. His vision for technology has grown to encompass its benefits for everyone. LearnStyle is currently featured as an education changemaker through Mars, and DJ has been recognized as their entrepreneur in residence. DJ is also the 2014 recipient of Trent University's Young Leader Award. Please join me in welcoming DJ Cunningham to share his journey and the bigger picture of education, technology, and student success. Thanks for being here, DJ.
Hey, Brenda, thanks so much for the video. Warm welcome. Can I just get a thumbs up that you can hear me?
Yeah, we can see you. No problem at all.
Oh, outstanding. Fantastic. Listen, it's a fantastic pleasure to be here. Halton Catholic District has been a fantastic partner of LearnStyle, and I was honored to be invited to SEAC tonight to share a little bit of my personal journey and speak to the SEA coaching work that we do here in Halton Catholic, and also expand a little bit on the partnership that we have with the school district. One of the things that I really want to lean into is what LearnStyle's mission is. And one thing, just before I get a little bit too much further, I know in Teams at times it may seem like I'm kind of cut off in half. I have a overlay presentation tool that I'm going to use called Prezi. If you pin me to the center of your screen, you should be able to see absolutely everything. And what I do want to lead into is really the true mission of LearnStyle. And the mission of LearnStyle is solely around this idea of everybody has the opportunity to succeed. And the way that we know how to do that is to create independence. Independence through strategy-based technology instruction delivered through a relationship training model. What we know how to do is to really affect the self-confidence of individuals. And I want to share with you how exactly it is that we got to this mission. And it very, very much began as a personal journey. As Brenda mentioned, I was diagnosed with a learning disability as a pretty small child. I was in grade 4 when I had my official diagnosis of dysphonetic dyslexia and ADHD. And one of the biggest challenges I had was really not having a confidence when it came to learning. And the challenging thing with the learning disability, as I'm sure you all are incredibly aware of, is it's incredibly invisible. I mean, if you take a look at me growing up, for the most part, I think I look fairly normal. However, if you ask me to read out loud, or if you ask me to write something on a whiteboard, well, it's quite a different story. My learning disability really affects things like reading and writing. It's very much a literacy-based challenge I have. And the other piece that really gets affected by my learning disability is executive function, which is kind of exacerbated by my ADHD. But I want to give you an example of the challenges of living with a learning disability. I remember in grade 4, I had massive challenges when it came to writing. In grade 4, I really didn't have any concept of what writing was. And often I would kind of write in my own little language. And I started to feel a little bit different than other students, to the point that learned helplessness began to settle in a little bit. And I remember in grade 4 being asked to journal one day. And I would always play kind of academic chicken with my teacher. And the reason for that is I had a lot of stress around writing. And the reason for that is if I were to try to write something, typically this is what my writing journal looked like. There wasn't a whole lot of writing, but there's little pictures always all over the place. But when it came to journaling, my teacher expected more than this. And I remember playing this game of academic chicken, where essentially what would happen is my teacher would ask us all to write, and I would put kind of this pen to page, and I would start thinking, how can I get out of this writing scenario? So immediately when teacher asked us to start writing, I'd kind of lift off and I would just start thinking. And my teacher would walk around and say, hey, how's writing going, everybody? And she would always come back to me and say, DJ, where is your writing at? Have you began? And this is where I started getting creative with this game of academic chicken. I would kind of look at her and say, not yet, miss. I'm still thinking of all the great ideas that I want to share. And she would say, okay, 5 more minutes would go along. And she would kind of circle back to me and say, DJ, have you written anything down? And at that point, I'd be like moving through all the pages of my journal saying, miss, I'm almost ready. I just got to find a blank page. And finally, like 15 minutes has gone by, writing period is over. And my teacher would say, DJ, man, have you written anything down? And there I would be like sharpening my pencil. I'm like, I am ready to go. At which point in time, I would have won the game of academic chicken, because my teacher would simply come over and grab my pencil out of my hand and say, DJ, what are your ideas? I'll quickly jot them down. It was never that I had a lack of ideas. It was that the writing disability that I have really crippled me in trying to get those ideas down in a meaningful way. That's how kind of writing was really affected. And then there was executive function, which was an entirely kind of different story. So executive function, as again, most of you are probably really aware of, is responsible for all of this stuff. It really helps with focus, it really helps with organization. Working memory is something that's pretty key that executive function takes care of, which allows me to retrieve information in a test-based scenario. The problem with me is my executive function doesn't really function like others. I once had a fantastic psychologist paint the analogy that executive function is kind of like a really competent office administrator, keeping the management of your brain going, doing all of these things. And the typical person has a pretty diligent, well-trained office administrator. Challenge with me, mine's a little bit different. This is more what my office administrator looks like. Yeah, so I'm entrusting all of that really important stuff right here to that little person over there to help me with things like focus, and again, trying to get my cognitive flexibility happening, inhibition, all of these things. And then the ADHD just totally exacerbates the whole idea. It really challenges me to stay focused. For all of you educators on the call, thank you for your patience with me, because I was that child in the back of your classroom, spinning on my chair, not knowing what to do with myself. And I'm sure I took like, oh gosh, probably 75% of all of your bandwidth. But this was, and this still is, my reality. And the piece that I want to kind of end off in just painting a picture of living with a learning disability is the thing that's kind of hidden. It's a little bit more beneath the surface. It's between all of these things right here, the reading and writing, the executive function. It's that emotional piece. And this is the piece that really gets affected when living with a learning disability. And for me, the way that really my social emotional well-being kind of climaxed in the worst kind of way in terms of crumbling was in grade 9. See, in grade 9, I really came to realize something. And that is the thing that we are most embarrassed about. It's kind of funny. I ask this question often to people. What are the things that we're most afraid of? And people tell me it's the fear of the unknown. It's the fear of change. It's failing. It's actually none of those things. The thing that we're most afraid of in this world is being embarrassed. And this is something that really landed itself in the most real way when it came to me entering grade 9. See, in grade 9, I remember walking off to school. And when I got to school, I was going through kind of the doors of my high school in Scarborough, and in that moment, I was probably reading at about a grade 4 level, I would say. And my greatest fear of all times is reading out loud. The thought of it is a nightmare. And I share this with you because when I walked through those doors of that grade 9 school, wanting to only make a good impression that day, I remember being handed my schedule. And the very first class of grade 9 so happened to be English. And I just thought, you know what? It's probably better to just go home than it is to tackle grade 9 English. But it's fascinating. I shared with you, we're motivated most by not being embarrassed. So the idea of going home and, I don't know, confronting my mom was not a good idea. That seemed more scary. So I decided I'm going to go to grade 9 English. And I remember walking in to grade 9 English and kind of beelining it to the very back of the classroom like a real good LD student would do. I'll never forget my teacher that day. Every single school has one of these teachers. They probably eat rainbows and happiness for breakfast every single morning. They are just so happy. They don't really walk. They like float on good vibes and energy and stuff like that. At any rate, when this teacher walks into grade 9 English, she doesn't walk in, she floats. And she cheers for grade 9 English. No kidding. She literally comes through the door and she starts cheering. She goes, "Yay, welcome to grade 9 English." And she's like running up and down the aisles of our classroom, high-fiving the world for English. I was terrified. I was thinking, nobody likes English this much. And it got to the point where I started thinking in my head, how do I protect myself in this English environment? And shortly thereafter, this English teacher starts telling us where else should we begin in English other than to dive into William Shakespeare. And in that moment, my heart sank because I noticed next to me there was a massive pile of books, Romeo and Juliet, sitting right next to me. And I was thinking, why is a stack of books sitting here? And why is my teacher talking about Romeo and Juliet on the first day of high school? And I started connecting the dots and I started getting super nervous because I was thinking, oh my goodness, she's going to ask us to read these things out loud. And sure enough, moments later, she hands out a copy of Romeo and Juliet to everybody and says, how else can we explore Romeo and Juliet other than reading it out loud together? Can I get some volunteers? Me being me, I immediately opened that book and completely hide behind it, trying my best to be invisible so that I would be just passed over. I think, though, I became the perfect target in that scenario. And a moment later, that teacher, she put her arm on my shoulder and said, why don't you read the part of Romeo? I actually just, I scanned a page of this for you all to see because it just seemed absolutely crazy to me. Here it is. I find myself in front of the school, or rather in front of my grade 9 classroom. And that there is what I was facing. I don't know about you, but what I just showed you is probably hard for the average person to sound out and read out loud, but for me, it was a complete impossibility. And I remember standing there as line after line was being read out loud. And my palms were sweaty, my heart was racing, and finally it was my turn to share. I opened my mouth and absolutely nothing came out. Now, most of you on this call right now have probably dabbled in psychology in some way, shape, or form. So you'll probably be familiar with the whole concept of fight or flight. It takes over in a high pressure situation, and this had quickly become a high pressure situation. I'm not incredibly proud of what happened, but kind of what happened next was this. I had this book in my hand and I looked at my poor grade 9 teacher and I heaved it at her. That was my little fight. And my flight became this. I just ran as fast as I could in that classroom. And as I was running to get out of there, my flight, I started noticing at the back of the class, there were no doors anywhere. And thank goodness I was on the first floor of my school because there happened to be one open window kind of at the end of the room. So my plan became this. If I get a little bit more speed, I bet I can like Superman myself through that window. And that is way less embarrassing than having, my grade 9 English loving teacher sound the words of Romeo and Juliet out loud to me. So I did that. I He-Man myself out of the window, and I thought, this is a brilliant idea. Train wreck is not quite over. I want to share with you one last image here. I went to school in Scarborough, and this was Sir John A. Macdonald Collegiate. The arrow that you're taking a look at, that is pointing at my English class, which means when I had jumped out of said window, I found myself in the center courtyard of my school. And I promise you, there are no unlocked open doors in the middle of that courtyard on the first day of school. I found myself completely trapped to the point that I had to walk back to that open window, climb back into that grade 9 classroom. And the weird thing was, everybody cheered for me that day. I met my principal that morning. But for me, this was a real low point. And it's part of one of the really complex challenges that we have in supporting kids with learning disabilities. Because it's not just about technology. It's not just about accommodations. It's really also about how are we able to tactically make sure that we're shoring up the things we need to shore up to really start affecting that emotional, that mental well-being. And that's where it gets really exciting when we start talking about technology. What I want to do is I want to switch gears for a moment here. And I want to tell you a little bit around the SEA coaching that we're able to offer in support of the students in Halton Catholic and beyond. And as mentioned, LearnStyle, it really began as a personal journey. I picked my father up along the way, who is a former educator up in the York Region District School Board, who is also a part of the Ministry of Education. He was one of the authors of Pathways to Success. And I said to him, Dad, you know what? I really think that assistive technology and this SEA fund that's available, I really think we can create a really tailored, specialized service to support these kids in a really, really meaningful way. And not just the assistive technology side of it, but how are we able to get them to really adopt the technology, to get them to that area of independence that ultimately is going to increase that self-confidence. And so what we've done and what we have really honed over the last many, many years started with some research, but then has been really proven through over 250,000 student delivered hours of coaching. And it really has allowed us to ensure that the way in which we engage with assistive technology and students is meaningful. And the hours that we have completed continue to inform our practice so that we challenge ourselves to ensure that we keep iterating and improving upon the approach that we've created. And it's allowed us to really grow LearnStyle to become the largest student success provider here within Ontario. And we've had the good fortune to be able to support many, many, many school districts here in the province and beyond. But specifically, who is really the stars of LearnStyle is this group right here. These are what we call our technology coaches. They are the individuals that are in schools or supporting virtually on a daily basis. And they are the specialists that truly understand how to affect that change that I was talking about, to ensure that kids are gaining that independence with their assistive technology so that the ultimate outcome is that increased self-confidence that we know we can achieve. I want to share with you a little bit how exactly we are able to do that. And it's really through a model that has been, again, started through research and then really solidified and informed by practice. And we call it TRUST, which stands for Attraction, Relationship, Understanding, Strategy, and Technology. And this trust process is where we support students, and it's what we do on a daily basis. Trust is really broken into 3 different phases. Each session, we begin with the discovery. The discovery informs our plan, and the plan informs what coaching tactics we're going to use to, again, ensure we are having students engaged and learning the skills they need to be independent. Discovery is just that. It's the T and the R and the U when it comes to trust. It's traction, relationships, and understanding. Relationships, they are critical. Something, again, you all here probably already know. I know for myself, I had a lot of stigma around my learning disability. And the label itself was challenging for me to digest. So much so that when I was first given my AT, I would be sitting in a public space. AT happened to be in the library. I'd be sitting there with my headphones on, having something read out loud to me. And I was so stigmatized and I was so worried that people would judge me and think of me as stupid if they knew I had my computer reading my textbooks out loud to me, that when people would walk by in that public space, I would kind of like start bobbing a little bit and pretend that I'm listening to like Bob Marley or the Rolling Stones or something, hoping that people aren't judging me. And what we understand completely is that stigma is a very real piece that needs to be addressed. And the way that we can really support students through stigma is through relationships and understanding. And one of the ways that we're able to help unpack this is through really establishing rapport with students, asking their interests, asking targeted questions to open them up a little bit. And through this discovery and through this building of trust, something happens. Students, they begin to like us, and we know when they like us, they will listen to us. And we know when they listen to us, well, then they're going to learn from us. We always lead with relationship. Relationship building also really pulls into play traction. Traction elements is truly how we can engage a student. I know often with myself, social media is one of those things that I don't like to partake in, because it exposes my learning disability in such a profound way. And for me, diving onto really any form of chat, whether it's social media or even collaborating with a friend using either Microsoft tools or something else, I get some anxiety. It's not until I can put a T on that supports me in terms of language prediction, word prediction. So as I'm typing, the system's helping me, it's aiding me by showing me some suggestions of the words I'm trying to spell. That's where my anxiety begins to dissipate. That's traction. When we find things that the students have built-in interests with, such as wanting to collaborate, wanting to engage in social media, that's the tool that we can then use to layer on assistive technology. So they start seeing the life benefit of it. And the little Trojan horse here that begins to happen is they start seeing the benefit in a real profound way pretty quickly. That ultimately always transfers into their academic journey as well. And then the other piece is really understanding students, really getting a sense of, well, what are their superpowers? And again, you all know this. In order to have a learning disability, kids are smart. And in fact, it's been found that students have to be at least average to above average with their intellect in order to even have a learning disability. And that all has to do with the kind of the difference between the peak and the valley of the learning challenges that as students have. So me, for instance, visually, I'm incredibly high. I'm in something like the 98th percentile. But when it comes to sequentially, where things like reading and writing happens, I'm in like the 13th percentile. And if that difference is greater than 50 percentiles, well, that's what diagnoses me as being learning disabled. However, there's that really strong visual piece. There's that thing, that superpower that we can tap into. When we're in the discovery phase, we're learning what are those assets that we can latch onto so that we can start building a toolkit for our students to be able to grab onto those assets and deploy when they are faced with challenges in their academic and life world. So once we have this all figured out, once we understand the traction elements. We've established rapport with students. We really understand the strengths of that individual. All of that informs the plan. And the plan is all about strategy and technology. Strategy is critical here. There's a bit of a misnomer that assistive technology is what's been referred to in special education as for a very long time as a silver bullet. We're not able to simply give a student voice recognition software who has a writing disability and all of their woes go away. It's quite the opposite. We really need to lead with a strategy, a writing strategy for that matter, to equip the student with a process that they can repeat over and over again, that they can gain some success and some confidence with. Once we have that strategy really understood and scaled up, that's when we can activate the strategy by using assistive technology. Without that strategy component at play, we find that assistive technology in some cases has really little effect on students, that the knowledge of the application of that AT is truly that gift, if you will, of independence that's established. So it's through the strategy and technology phase that our team begins to source out learning strategies that are going to take advantage of those assets that I had mentioned about. And from there, it's connecting the pieces of technology that make most sense and that are available and accessible to students on a daily basis in order for them to action out that learning strategy. And once that's all in play, once we've completed our discovery, which has informed our plan, well, it's going to inform now our coaching. And our coaching is all about really deploying field tactics, as we call them. It's scaffolding information. It's making sure that not too much information is being packaged together when we're showing a student that they get lost in it. And on the flip side, we need to make sure that we're giving them not too little where we lose their interest. That's the same idea with cadence. It's the speed in which new information is coming. Every student's a little bit different. Some kids, they need to eat it up in order to keep them engaged, and our cadence has to be pretty quick. And on the flip side, there's other students that need to take a little bit longer. Remember my whole executive function thing I was telling you about? That's me. My working memory is not strong. I need things to go at a slower pace for me to digest them and understand them. So for a student like me, a coach would be able to set their cadence to ensure that they're giving me enough information to keep that engagement, but not too much that it's overwhelming me. And then things like chunking and connection back to real school activities that our students are completing are all things that really allow the strategy that we're leading with and the technology that we're having them action out that strategy with really start to take hold and become the thing that they can repeat on an ongoing basis to the point of independence. And all the way on the other side is session awareness. Not lost on us that a lot of the students we're supporting, a student like me that has a dual diagnosis with ADHD as being a part of it, it's really important that situational and session awareness is really achieved, understanding placement, environment, the comings and goings of other students. So all of that's happening and being managed kind of in the peripheral as we are supporting a student, also that they really are able to be focused in on learning the skills. And let me tell you, the outcomes are incredible. If we take a look here at some pre and post session data capture, what you are seeing is over the course of 6 sessions, the increase students have in terms of their independence. And that is success to us, is moving students to a greater level of independence. So if you take a look at this graph here, you'll notice there's a progression of that far right purple column. That is where we want to get students to. That is a level 4 on an independence rubric. And as we start progressing, you'll notice that that purple or that violet column begins to increase higher and higher and higher and higher to the point that we truly are affecting the independence of that student, getting to them to a level where they're able on their own to be able to deploy their technology and be successful in going through and completing it. This is trust. Again, this is the thing that we do on a daily basis. It's what all of those 250,000 hours of student facing time has been doing is completing this trust model with many, many, many tens of thousands of students at this point. What I want to do is I want to talk to you a little bit about the transparency when it comes to the coaching support that we offer students. And transparency becomes a really important aspect in terms of ensuring that no student gets left behind, ensuring that we do have the proper supports in place, that the Learn Style team is pivoting and ensuring that the right coach is supporting the right student. And we've created something called our TMTS, our SMTS, which is a student management and tracking system. And our system is a software tool which your board is using that allows the tracking of all of the different metrics, all of the different schedules, everything that really encapsulates what's needed to support a student. It's real time. It provides a plethora of session reports to teachers, to parents, to administrators to see what's happening during those sessions. A whole bunch of accountability pieces where there's parameters and notifications that are alerting us if students aren't being seen in a timely fashion. There's also scheduling that takes place so that we can really build on the momentum of equipment being delivered to a student. And this was one of the kind of key pieces way back when my dad and I founded Learn Style that we noticed. In many districts, an SEA computer would be delivered, and it could be many months before somebody went in and showed that individual how to use that piece of equipment. And that created a lot of challenges, created a lot of unnecessary barriers. Things like, if I'm that student, I will open up my computer, I will try my voice recognition, and it will not work for me, and I will not like it, and I'm going to grow some negative feelings towards it. And when my trainer or coach finally comes in many months later, there's a lot more work to be done to unpack those feelings to really be able to show them how they can be successful with their tools. So one of the things that Halton Catholic is fantastic at is getting timely sessions booked after equipment is delivered. Now equipment gets delivered, and shortly thereafter, we have a coach in there supporting that student. So we're building on the momentum, the excitement of the system being there, and also all those bad habits that potentially could be entrenched. Well, they don't have a chance to even get there. And then everything is very secure. We're cloud hosted through Microsoft Azure. That just ensures the utmost security when it comes to student information. And this is a tool that allows us to, again, be completely transparent with where we're at with all of our students. It allows for team discussions and collaboration to take a look at students and be able to ensure, again, that we have the right supports in play for them, moving them in the right direction. Oops, let me just go back here for a moment. And what I really want to end off on is talking to some of the really incredible success that we've had with supporting students and everything that I've just mentioned. And this is very specific to Halton Catholic District School Board. When we take a look at success, we take a look at three really big buckets. The first being impact on academics. And we found that 88% of your students found that their technology and their coaching has had a positive impact for students completing tests and assignments. Adoption is huge. So adoption on assistive technology. After coaching and after kids receive their specific SEA devices, we find that their adoption is at around the 90% daily usage level. And then finally, the one that personally I'm most proud of is when it comes to that self-confidence. When we end our sessions and we ask our kids about how they're feeling about themselves, 88% of them state that they feel more confident due to their technology and their coaching. And that's a tribute back to the hard work that the Halton Catholic team does and the Learn Style team does together to make sure that we are getting those kids to an area of independence with their systems. And in terms of amount of effect that we've been able to have within the district, last year we completed 2006 coaching sessions. which was up from the year prior, which was fascinating to us considering last year was a COVID year. And that just speaks to the tremendous dedication that the Halton Catholic itinerant team really had at leaning into the equipment, making sure it's getting out of the doors to the right students, and making sure that we are pivoting in every which way we needed to get students to attend their coaching sessions, and arguably the most critical time for them to be understanding how to be independent with their assistive technology. We also had 336 school staff attend our sessions. Every single coaching session that we offer, parents, teachers, EAs are all invited to be a part of that, so they can see technology in action, and they can, especially parents, can better understand at home, how can I support my son or daughter with the use of their assistive tech. And the last number that I want to share with you, kind of mind-blowing. So we've been partnered with Halton Catholic since March 2017. And since then, we've completed 6,712 sessions. Again, it just goes to show the commitment that the Halton Catholic District has to students with learning disabilities, and ensuring that they're getting both technology and getting the supports that they need in order to be independent and to be successful. Really, just to wrap up, it's been one of those journeys of my life where I never thought in 1,000 years I'd be supporting education. But truthfully, if I go all the way back to that grade 9 scenario that I shared with you earlier, that crazy English loving teacher, well, she took some interest in me, and she has become one of my greatest heroes. And the reason she's one of my greatest heroes is one day at lunch, I was sitting in the cafeteria with my friends, and she confronted me. She kind of floated on over with her energy, high-fiving the world. And she looks at me straight in the eyes and she says, "DJ, what are you afraid of?" Me being a grade 9 boy, my obvious response to that was nothing. You know, I'm the king of the world. But oh my goodness, my stomach just fell. And she said it again. She said, "DJ, honestly, what are you so afraid of?" And she saw that my demeanor changed. My eyes welled up and my shoulders fell. And she kind of grabbed me and threw me in the hallway. And I remember looking at her and I said, "You want to know what I'm afraid of? I'm afraid that I'm stupid, and I'm afraid to disappoint my mom, and I'm afraid to disappoint my dad." That teacher took extra interest in me, and she created a safe learning environment for me. She got me back to English, and she completely affected the trajectory of my life. When I learned around assistive technology, it yet again completely shifted the trajectory of my life to where I am today, having the privilege and the honor to really support my community, as I like to refer to it, a community of learning disabled individuals, ensuring that they are given the opportunity that I had to succeed in life and truly to be happy. So on behalf of all the coaches at LearnStyle, we really are so thankful at the opportunity to work with your students and to continue to work with your students and your teachers to ensure that every student has the opportunity to succeed. Thank you all so very much. And Brenda, I think I'm going to kick it back over to you, my friend.
Thank you so much, DJ. Let me just adjust my sound here. I've heard you speak before and I never get tired of it. So I'm glad that you had an opportunity to come to our group tonight. I'm going to ask if there's any questions from our group. So let me just see if anybody has any hands up. And then I'm also hoping that maybe Jen, I'm going to put you on the spot, Jen Thompson, but I'm hoping that maybe you can say a few words because you've been so intimately involved with this program and so involved with bringing this to our students and just, yeah. And you always talk about the great work of LearnStyle, their products, their support. You're a huge fan. So maybe, you wouldn't mind saying a few words because that impact was pretty impressive from my perspective.
Yeah, we have a great partnership with LearnStyle. We do a lot of work with them. Today we focused a lot on how we support our students with learning disabilities, but we also work with them and support students in other areas as well. We won't get into all of that tonight, but it's been a great partnership and we've been very lucky. We continue to support students. We continue to collect data, which continues to inform our support. We've done a little bit of research too around engaging staff to be able to continue to support students. And so together we're brainstorming about ways that we can increase some of our teacher efficacy around student use. And we're hoping to put some additional or different types of training in play as we move forward. But yeah, it's been really good. And Brenda, you know how much I love making sure that our students get what they need. And SEA has been a huge passion of mine since I came into this role, and I connected with DJ actually early on in my role because we didn't have training at Halton Catholic for students who had SEA devices for many, many years. And we knew it was a big need, and it's really taken off and we're seeing great things. So I don't know if that's what you wanted from me, but I'm a huge fan. So.
Just again, you're such a big fan of LearnStyle, and I know you've come to the board before to present to us, on the program and how, how LearnStyle supports our system and our students and teachers, and how you guys support them. And so, DJ, I mean, I'm sure you don't need the kudos, but honestly, there's a lot of kudos here. And I think the big thing that I'm impressed in, and my son doesn't use it, but they have talked about using it actually. But I think for me is, there's so many of these programs that we see come and go over time. And there's so many of these, great ideas and, this software and that software. And a lot of the times, they're not sustainable. They're not actually, like Jen, when I heard you talk about, data and research, they don't. They come in, they're sort of, exciting for the moment, and then they wear off. And we've seen LearnStyle, we've seen the longevity. I've seen it change a bit to meet the needs. You are fluid with the product to meet the needs of the people who are using it. And it's been sustainable. And that, I think, is a huge thing, because for these students, and I mean the teachers too, but when you introduce something to them and they start to become dependent on that program for their, for their learning and their success, and then it's not there anymore, I mean, that's the worst thing that can happen. So I'm glad to see that it's still around.
It's interesting, Brenda, because it's one of the characteristics that I most love about kids like myself. I feel that we've got a tenacity, a built-in resiliency that's honed through really supportive teachers and parents. And for me, it's that resiliency of ensuring that we're always challenging ourselves and not being afraid to take a chance. And I know Jen and I, you and I have talked at length about different initiatives we want to try, and we're open to giving them a go and failing at them, but then failing fast and failing forward and being resilient about it. And it's exciting to see these kids do that with technology. They give it a go and it doesn't work. So we, with them, pivot and they try it again. And I feel that that's the greatest skill set that these kids have. They'll go into the real world and they won't be afraid of the challenge, and they'll give it their all, and they in many cases will fall flat on their face, but then they'll pick themselves back up and they'll try it again. And this world needs those individuals. So again, I think the work that gets done here at SEAC and in special education as a whole is so important to really equip these kids with that resiliency to go into this world and be the true change makers that I know they are. And one thing that I'll kind of end off is just, it's the steadfast commitment that Halton Catholic has to their students. We support now 20 districts. We support 20 districts of the 72 here in Ontario with all of their SEA work. And Halton Catholic from day one has had the lowest cancellation rate of coaching session, which is really a testament to the entire system leaning in on the importance and the value that this brings students and making sure that the kids are set up for success. Jen, I mean, we talk about it all the time. It blows our mind. In fact, when there is a cancellation, you usually pick up the phone and call us. You're like, what happened here? Like, are you sure? And, in most cases, it's a kid sick or something like that, totally unavoidable. But we've always been really humbled at the commitment you have to your students. And it's fantastic when you have that partnership where there's a shared vision and there's really a shared sense of what success looks like. So we're all able to get there. But yeah, it's pretty impressive. Of the 20 districts that we are supporting, Halton Catholic, since 2017 has been on top when it comes to that. And that's one of our internal measures of, is this working in a district, is the cancellation rate. So kudos to all of you.
That's fantastic. We do have 2 questions, if you're okay to answer those. So I'm not sure who put their hand up first, but I think it might have been Diane. Diane, do you want to go ahead?
Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, DJ. That was a very impressive presentation. I'm just wondering, Jennifer, maybe, is this available in all our schools or a certain number at this moment?
Yeah, it is available in all of our schools. As we put SEA claims through, with it comes training hours for our schools to utilize. And they have some flexibility, so they're able to train new students who have SEA. But the one thing I really, really love about our partnership is LearnStyle allows us to not just train that one student who just got a SEA device, we train past students to give them refreshers. And we even train SEA or students who are non-SEA students, and we train kids in groups. We sometimes do it as whole class. We sometimes do it as individual. So it really depends on the student and their needs and where they would learn best and most comfortable. But it's great that we're able to bring in so many non-SEA students and give them similar types of training. And it normalizes it. It takes the stigma away when there's a small group of kids who, it doesn't matter if they have a learning disability or don't, they're all engaging in the training. So yes, it is in all of our schools.
Thanks, Diane. And Rhonda, you had your hand up as well?
I did. I had a question for DJ. DJ, I represent the deaf and hard of hearing population. So our kids are very akin to using technology. In fact, they rely quite heavily on it. I'm sure you're familiar with FM technology, DM technology.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And a lot of our kids, well, 40% of them have the additional diagnosis of a learning disability or additional issues. So my question to you, actually, and you answered it, was how many districts you're accessing. So you said 20 out of the 72. So kudos to you. Such an impressive presentation. I can't tell you. And I love to hear the accolades to Halton Catholic. So that really, really happy to hear that about Halton Catholic. And, keep going, keep accessing, get going. Let's get all 72 boards on, on board with everything. Yeah. Really appreciate that. Yeah.
And one of the things, as Jen mentioned, is the trust model that we complete with students. It is available for all students. And so when we have the fantastic opportunity to work with the deaf and hard of hearing population, our coaches are trained up on how to engage with those FN systems. Because again, we know it's critical that when we go in there, there's not awkwardness around any type of technology or even what that situation might occur. So we ensure that our coaches do have that understanding of how to engage with an FM system. How do we make sure that the student is set up for success? And that goes back to what Jen was saying. It's the importance of normalizing the technology, not making a big deal about it. It's something that we know when we have an opportunity to embrace with kids and not putting in those challenges there, then they just really, really begin to take off with it. So I know for a fact that we've definitely connected with some of the students that you represent. So thank you.
And I think it's important to mention as well, Rhonda, that we also have coaches who have training in blind low vision as well. So we're able to engage all of our students, regardless of what type of technology they're using. They tend to have coaches that meet the needs of everybody. So that's been really good. And we do meet with LearnStyle's team every single month for at least 2 to 3 hours. And we sit and we have a really great meeting. We, what's going well? What do we need to change? I have an idea and they'll say, yeah, no, that's not going to work. Or they'll have an idea and I'm like, absolutely not. But we do try so many things. And, it really is a partnership and we spend a lot of time talking through things and, making sure that the changes that we're going to make are going to be impactful. But mostly we're communicating very, very regularly. And I think that's, Brenda, why we've been able to keep this partnership for so long, is we just have such open and great communication and such regular communication, that we're able to keep things going. So.
Yeah, and Jen, it'd be fun in a future SEAC to come back and just talk about how a lot of the innovation that you all have had and the collaboration we've had has really poured into other districts, and other districts have taken notice of Halton Catholic. I have the good fortune to attend a directors conference, and when sharing with directors some of the tools which we've co-collaborated, Halton Catholic's name gets brought up often, and they're pretty impressed at the little engine that could down there in Halton.
I'm going to take that.
So Brenda, can I just say one more thing?
Yeah, of course.
I was just saying to so Jennifer and DJ, I was just saying to my counterpart, Rick Barrero, this is what SEAC is all about. These kind of presentations and the model that you're presenting, and the fact that, as you said, other school boards are saying, okay, we're listening, like this is working at Halton Catholic. That warms my heart. So thank you very much for tonight. It's a wonderful Christmas present.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. And I'll make sure that we get that soundbite for Director Daly so that he can play that when he's at those meetings. I'm sure he'd appreciate that. But yeah, to echo Rhonda, thank you so much. Like I said, I've seen you present, DJ, and always a pleasure to hear you talk. And it's nice, I think, for our SEAC members to hear you, because again, Jen has come in before and done presentations. So I think this was a great tie-in. We'd love to have you back. So we'll coordinate that at some point. So thank you again, and wish you all the best and happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda.
Okay, so moving on to 3.2, we have another presentation. And so this presentation is the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. So I'm going to welcome Denise and Jody. I mean, I have the blurb here, but I think everybody knows who Denise and Jody are, and they're going to present a video on the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. So welcome.
Thank you. That is a really hard act to follow, but I am going to do my best. And I have to say, it's not even me, which is great. This is all about our students, and I think another great story to bring us into the holidays and to share with you. We just wanted to share a little bit about International Day of Persons with Disabilities and how we celebrated it in our board, and then we have a video to show you. So I think you'll enjoy this as well. So I'm glad it's not my presentation following that, and rather the students, because I think you'll be equally impressed and happy with it. So as you're aware, every year on December 3rd, we do celebrate International Day of Persons with Disabilities. We celebrate as a board and recognize the day with week-long activities leading up to it. And it's set aside really to increase knowledge and understanding about persons with disabilities. So this year, the international focus was leadership and participation of persons with disabilities towards an inclusive, accessible, and sustainable post-COVID-19 world. So last year, we actually had a rather large committee, a number of people on the committee that created really an abundant amount of resources. So we wanted to recognize and honor that hard work of last year, knowing that there was no way all the schools were getting through all of those resources that we had created. So we actually met as a smaller group this year, made up of some of our members from last year, which included a member of SEAC, a student, both an elementary and secondary principal, as well as our equity manager, to review the resources and provide some additional feedback. And that kit was shared with schools, as well as a one-page access to videos, activities, prayers, and resources that schools could use throughout the week. When we met as a small committee, we did discuss the theme of leadership and what it means to be a leader. And it was a great conversation. And we talked about that being a leader means it's different for everyone. And we really wanted to highlight how students with disabilities in our systems are leaders. So we sent a system message out to CERTs and EAs, department heads, and we just asked them to share some photos of students and use the line, "I'm a leader because," and ask the student, you know, why are they a leader? Or share with us, why is that student a leader? And then from there, we created a PowerPoint, and that's actually what we would like to share with you now. So I'm hoping Andrea can bring that up. And I hope you enjoyed as much as we enjoyed creating it.
So I'd say that was a pretty good follow-up to DJ. Jody?
Yeah, I think so, right? I was like, see, it wasn't me, so I was very happy that that was the video that was following because it was pretty darn good. I was just, I loved that video and I thought the idea was great, and I want to thank yourself and the committee for putting that forward because it's so good.
Well, the whole time it was playing, I thought I'm so excited by the number of things that were sent in. Like we didn't know, right? We're kind of like, will people, won't they? And wow, they really heeded the call and sent in some beautiful pictures and some amazing examples of leadership. And I absolutely loved it. It's just such a nice feeling.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. And thanks so much for the team for all the work done for that day. I know how hard you work and how many resources have been created and continue to be reviewed. And this year was another great year. So thank you so much. Okay, so 2 amazing presentations, leaving us on such a good note. Moving on to item 4.1 is the approval of the minutes. So you will have had in your package the minutes of the November 29th meeting. Did anybody have any questions, comments on the minutes? And if not, could I get a mover and a seconder? Rick, okay, so Rick, I'll have you move, and Paul, you okay to second? Great, thank you. Okay, moving on to business arising from the previous meetings. You will see the chart that was in the meeting package, and we have added the writing of the SLP letter. It was added to the chart, and the sample letter and information was included in the meeting package. Was there any questions or comments at all on that? No. Okay, great. So item number 6, special education board policy review. We don't have any policies for review this evening. Item number 7, action and information items. So 7.1, you will have seen the SEAC guidelines and code of conduct draft that was sent around. Our subcommittee had a few meetings to develop the SEAC guidelines and code of conduct handbook for members to review. And again, the draft was included in the meeting package. It was actually an excellent exercise. I think we all really enjoyed it. We learned a lot, and I really enjoyed it. I think it was a great outcome from the conversation that we had over the last few meetings. So I would welcome everybody, if you have had a chance to take a look at it, if you had any questions, comments, feedback, if any of the members on the committee wanted to say anything about the process, please feel free. Yeah, Paul, Paul says looks great. Thank you, Paul. Did anybody else have any comments, questions? Yeah, Diane, go ahead.
I was reading this over this afternoon, and are we finished with this now, or are there still more things to do on it?
I believe it's done pending review of this group here.
And how is that group going? How is that review going to take place, Brenda?
Well, I think we were hoping that everybody would have taken a look at it in the meeting package and then come to us today with any comments or suggestions or feedback, and then we could discuss and make the proposed changes or discuss as a group. So that's the way I figured that the process would go.
Okay. Yeah. I've got a few, if I may.
Of course.
I'll just hold on for a second.
If you want to, Diane, sorry, are you there?
Yes, I'm there, sorry.
Okay. That's okay. I was gonna say, if you want to give us maybe the page number, and then Andrea can bring it up so we can see the actual content you'll be referring to.
Okay, there are some small things that just more like, not typos, but just where words have come together where they should be spaced. The one thing that bothers me the greatest is on page 2, second paragraph, line 1. We talked about this before, whether it said that motions or recommendations. So if we were to go to page 2, the second paragraph, I believe, line 1, motions or recommendations. Where are we?
Sorry, under the purpose of SEAC?
I think it's under the purpose of SEAC. I've got page 2, second paragraph. Oh, wait a minute, I've got it wrong. But it's one of them anyhow. I'm just trying to find it.
Sure.
I can't see that. It's the line where it talks about motions or recommendations. And we talked about this at our meeting, and we discussed that it should be resolutions or recommendations.
Okay, so the one that I see here says a special education advisory committee of a board may make recommendations to the board. Is that the one, Diane?
No, no.
Oh, okay, recommendations. Oh, here, recommendations from SEAC may be presented to the Board of Trustees through a resolution?
No, I'll have to go back and find it. I apologize.
Okay, no worries. No worries.
I will search it out.
Okay.
Are we on page 2 right now? It's moving in front of me here.
Yeah.
Okay, then maybe I made a mistake. Oh, there it is. Prior, no. No, I think that's, I don't think that's what I was looking for. Okay, I apologize. I will pin that down and get it to you tomorrow.
Perfect, thank you. Did you have another one?
Just small things, such as there's a line there where the school year is 1 word instead of 2. The letter of nomination, shouldn't the word nomination be capitalized also? It's just where a couple of words have run together.
Okay.
Things like that.
Okay, well, yeah, Diane, if those are just sort of formatting, if you don't mind just sending an email with those, that would be great.
Okay,
and then if
I'll
you find the reference that other paragraph, please just send it through.
I will, thank you, appreciate that.
Oh, you're very welcome. Rhonda, you had your hand up?
I'm just wondering, Brenda, after we have a discussion and people come forward with their comments, are we approving these guidelines tonight?
That was, I think that was the hope, was to get everybody on side with it. What I was thinking was if there was a lot of, and again, anyone on the committee can certainly jump in, if there was a lot of suggestions this evening or a lot to discuss, then I think we would make those changes and then send them back perhaps for the next meeting and then, go through and approve. Yeah, I'm not hearing any other feedback. So it would be great. The sooner we can get this done and provide it as a resource, I think the better. Did anybody have a different perspective on the process? I know I have committee members on the call if anybody wants to jump in. All right, well, I guess if there's nothing to say, then is everybody okay with us putting this through pending any grammatical or formatting changes that need to happen? Let's do it this way. Is there anybody opposed to us putting this forward as a resource? All right, good. That'll go forward then as a resource. We'll make any of the appropriate changes required and send it out to everybody again for their final eyeball. But thanks, Tracy. We can move in second. I don't think we need to if there's no one opposed to it. If everybody's okay with it and there's no opposed, I think we can just move through unanimously. All right, moving on.
Sounds good, Brenda.
Thank you. All right, so moving on, committee board updates. Does anybody have an update? I know I don't have any from the committees that I sit on. Does anybody have an update that they want to share? Maria, do you have anything on de-streaming? Is Maria on the call?
I believe she was inactivated somehow, Brenda. I don't know. I I saw it earlier that somehow she was out of the loop somehow. You'll see if you go back. Yep.
I don't see. Yeah, I didn't get another request to join. Okay. Okay, well, if Marie doesn't get back in or isn't able to join, if there were any updates for the meeting, I can certainly ask her to send out an email to everybody with an update. Like I said, I don't have any from my committees. So moving to item number 9, communication to SEAC, we have our superintendent report. Superintendent Ballo, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. So the report isn't too long because we did meet 2 weeks ago. I do want to start by thanking Jody and Denise and yourself and everyone who was on the committee for their leadership and for the presentation that was put together. I'd say since our last meeting, that was the Monday of the week that the celebration took place, and that was definitely the focus across our system. And it's excellent to see our second year of recognizing the day and the week and all the great ways that schools have celebrated. So that's excellent. With regards to professional development, at the last PA day, Jody and I presented to all of the occasional teachers that we have in our school board, and we spoke to career pathways in special education, and we explained all of the classes that we offer at both the elementary and secondary level to really give people an understanding of the classes that they are supplying in. We introduced all of our occasional teachers to the ABA resources, and we viewed one of the ABA modules with regards to helpful strategies, as well as the mental health and well-being module that explains our mental health and well-being model, board-wide interventions, and pathways to staff at school to support any student who may need support. So really wanting to give an overview to all of our occasional teachers if they find themselves in a situation where they may need to access some immediate support or some strategies for the classroom where they can go to get some great resources. Overall, the feedback was very positive from the PA day. So thanks to Jody for being my partner in that. Our secondary special education department head meeting took place today, and there was a presentation by the Disability Services Ontario on transition support practices for students and families. And we certainly appreciate them being able to be part of the PD and training for our department heads. Regarding our educational assistants, we have been able to return to in-person safe management training for our EA group. We recently had a training that took place on the PA day again, and we continue to offer on-site training and practice support to schools for their school-based teams as needed, and we've been doing that since the beginning of the year. Our partners in human resources had a virtual job fair actually this week, and it was hosted by Apply to Education, which included a focus on educational assistant recruitment, as well as other support staff. And this really does support our EA recruiting practices, including standing weekly scheduled interviews that take place. And thanks to our EA managers for their commitment to doing that. With regards to mental health and well-being, the suicide prevention and response protocol has been updated, and it was presented to all social workers, child and youth counselors, and psychology staff last week. A corresponding PowerPoint presentation will allow for all of our mental health staff to support our administrators in the presentation of this protocol to all staff. In an ongoing effort to align with various departments, a mentally healthy schools and classrooms presentation took place with our Pathways team. We had our child and youth counselors share the school mental health action kit resources with our partners in student success. We're really trying to work collaboratively between our departments and align all the great work that's happening here in program services. The itinerant CYCs are continually providing information to schools to support them in their work to promote mental health and well-being. There are a multitude of resources that are provided by school mental health, and we've had our itinerant team of CYCs putting together presentations each month for staff meetings to assist our administrators and our teachers with the implementation of strategies in classrooms across the system. They've been very well received, and I really do need to acknowledge the hard work of our itinerant CYCs. They also maintain our Twitter account, which is very active at HCDSB_MHWB. And the focus for December is compassion in action. Lastly, I would add that all of our specialized classes at both elementary and secondary, our itinerant CYCs, are providing strategies and implementation supports for CYCs that are school-based as well as teachers. So they've been spending quite a bit of time with our life skills classes as well. And then very last, our mental health and wellbeing advisory. It was mentioned that our steering committee took place in November, and we have since formed 2 subgroups that will be reviewing our mental health resources, as well as reviewing and updating our mental health and addiction strategy, which will be a big focus for the group this year. And that's it.
Thanks so much, Stephanie. Does anybody have any questions at all on the superintendent's report? Again, recognizing that we just had one a few weeks ago, so which was quite a big report. Did anybody have any questions or need any clarification? Nope, I don't see any hands up. Okay, thanks, Stephanie.
No problem.
I will go over to the trustee report. So Marvin, if you are able to give the trustee report, that would be great.
Good evening. Yeah, since this is going to be a very short report too. Last meeting was on November 29th. Trustees have had one board meeting only. At the December 7th board meeting, we had the election of the chair and the vice chair. Milton trustee Marvin, that's me, was elected as chair of the board for 1 year. And then we had the election of the vice chair of the board was held, and Burlington trustee Agnew was elected as vice chair of the board for 1 year. Congratulations. At the same meeting, we had policy II-20, child abuse and protection of students, which was presented and approved. There were 2 notices of motions that were discussed, debated and voted upon. Hiring practices. This was a motion to conduct a review of hiring practices and for protocols to be put in place to address historically disadvantaged groups in the workforce with several criteria. This motion passed. We had another one, which was bullying prevention and intervention. This motion was for the board to strike a standing bullying prevention and intervention committee to be comprised of students, staff, and trustees, and CPIC and SEAC and any other representatives, and this motion passed too. There was a report presented by staff on the school resource officers program, and this program is in place in our schools for many years. And there was a motion put on the floor to pause the program until such time as information could be held and community conversations could be held with various community groups, parents, students, police service and staff on the program. And it was put on pause till April of this next year, and it would be brought back to the board for review after that. Finally, this is the last meeting of the year, and I would like to thank all of you for the wonderful work that you do and your immense contribution to SEAC at HCDSB. I would like to wish you and your families a Merry Christmas and have a safe and enjoyable holiday season. Thank you. I'd like to take any questions if there are.
Great, thanks so much. Does anybody have any questions for Trustee Dort? Nope, you are. Looks like you are off the hook, Marvin. So thank you so much for your update. Appreciated. Okay, just going through down here. So SEAC, so item number 10 is SEAC discussions. Is there anything that anyone would like to discuss during our SEAC discussion? Okay, I'll take that as a no. Meeting summary and next steps. So we don't think we had much out of tonight as far as next steps. A nice clean meeting this evening. Our next agenda, so January the 31st, 2021 is our next meeting, and this agenda will include the election of the chair and vice chair, an IEP presentation, and a budget priority discussion with our SEAC members. Resolution for absentees. Be it resolved that Jessica Lim and Samantha Sweet, and Lietzel as well, right? Be excused. Can I get a mover and a seconder for a resolution for absentee? Paul moved. Can I get a seconder? Dan seconded. Thank you. Okay, so moving on, item number 14 is our adjournment and closing prayer. So resolve that the meeting adjourn. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Sorry, do I have a hand up? Am I missing somebody? I just can't see them both.
This is Rick. I'll move the motion.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
I'll second this then.
So moved by Rick, seconded by Dan. Thank you so much. We will go to our closing prayer. Just give us a second. Okay. If you'll join the sign of our faith in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Blessed are you, O God of all creation. Each day you spread before us the rich and wonderful diversity of the human family created in the divine splendor of your love. Fashioned in your image, you call us to love one another with the same tender care with which you brought us to creation. Each one of us is but one small part of the glory that is you. As we serve the students and families of the Halton Catholic District School Board on the Special Education Advisory Committee, fill us with your grace, guide us with your wisdom, and give us the strength and courage to do your work so that it may always be said of our every act, God saw that it was good. In the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, amen. Wishing you all a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. All the best to you and your families. Please stay safe, and I wish you much joy. Thanks for a great year.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thanks. You too, Brenda, and everybody.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.